Hi there, I'm Eleanor Duncan and I work at Crawforddyke Nursery. My passion is for outdoor learning, and over the last 2 years we have been developing an outdoor area. That's with the support of the parents, the community, the children. Now from that we have now got an area that is rich in all areas of the curriculum. It's full of areas for challenge, for risk. It's very much, a lot of our children that come in, we don't know if they've got any ASN diagnoses. So when they come in, it can be quite challenging to keep them in the playroom. And we find that when we get them outdoors, their behaviours are completely different. They're more relaxed, they're not anxious, they've got areas for running at speed. And a lot of young children have a lot of schematic play that we find, in especially in early years, having to go and do that in a classroom environment or a playroom environment can be quite challenging, especially if it's a trajectory or if it's a rotation. If they're outside, they can do that they've not got any boundaries or anything like that, and they can do that as much as and often as they want. Again, meaningful learning we feel takes place outside. We don't need to plan maths and numeracy, it just naturally takes place. We get lots of rich learning experiences from the children, and it's all child-led. From my love of outdoors, I went on and trained as a forest school leader, and from that I started my own community interest company called Forest Friends. Now through Forest Friends we do a lot of parent sessions where we invite the parents along, showing them that they don't need to spend lots of money for taking children to expensive areas, that they can get the same and more good fun and learning opportunities outside. We also do classes for an ASN base, that the children come along with their parents and they join in a forest school session. Now during these sessions we try and get the parents to take a wee step back, where they'll sit round the campfire, they'll have a cup of tea and they'll share their own experiences, and we'll let the children go and explore. Over this period of 12 weeks that we've been doing this, we've noticed some friendships developing, even if it's just a passing glance or sharing a hammock. But one of the parents that my personal favourite was that one of the person had a child that didn't communicate at all, but from being in the outdoors was just a squeal, and that was their way of communicating that they've never done before, and that was a big step. So again, for that we've seen, especially in the nursery and in my forest school, it's very important, and to get these children outside, to get, give them the experience, the sensory experience, the being in the outdoors, the seasons, using the different elements, the fire, the mud, the water. These are all very important. And then from that, taken from outdoor learning from the early years, we then took that into the school. And lucky enough, with a great head teacher, Angela, who was able to then see how good these outdoor learning was, and she took it on into the school and allowed Forest Friends then to take some children within the school outdoors. And I'll pass on to Angela and she'll be able to explain the benefits that she had within the school from it. Thank you.
Thanks, Eleanor. Could you move on to the next slide for me, Mark? Would that be okay? And maybe that's part of
Sorry, I didn't realise.
That's okay. So we do, as Eleanor mentioned, we do a lot of outdoor learning in the school, and not just because we're being forced to at the moment, but we always have. And we are extremely lucky in our school in that when our old building was knocked down, it was, rather than being sold off the house, and it was converted into a really large outdoor learning area for us, with an outdoor classroom, a grass amphitheatre, a fire pit, big football fields, bug huts and everything. So we're really lucky. So we do use it as a matter of normal kind of day-to-day planning anyway. What I'm going to speak about today is a mini project we ran specifically for children who were what we call in distress. I think probably the more common name that most of us would have normally used was children who had presented with challenging behaviour. So the new terminology we're now using is about children being in distress in South Lanarkshire, because technically that's what the behaviour has shown, is that they are in some form of distress. So we decided that we would try and use outdoor learning, with giving Eleanor's success in relation to that as well. We're a large school. We've got over 400 pupils plus the nursery, and we had an increasing number of pupils who just weren't managing the normal mainstream day without that level of distress, without becoming incredibly challenging, confrontational, aggressive, violent behaviour. And there were concerns for the impact on other pupils. And that, of course, as a head teacher, you're taking on quite a few complaints from other parents and staff about the impact on their children. And exclusion, which is what they often called for. Let me see, I think somebody's still got their mic on, folks. Would that be right? Just me.
Angela, I'll just have a wee look down, and I can mute people, so just bear with me,
Thank you. No worries.
Hopefully that should be us. Muted a couple of people there. So sorry, Angela, thanks for bearing with us.
That's okay. It should hopefully work. Great. So we were obviously, I don't know how anyone, if there's any head teachers or deputy heads on here or schools that recognise that call from a lot of parents who say, why can't you just put them out of school? Why can't you just exclude them? Why can't you take them out of the class? And we know that sometimes that's a short-term measure, but it's certainly not an answer to solving the problems for those wee ones who are actually in proper distress. So we wanted to try and find a way in order to meet that need. Mark, could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So we got in partnership with a local charity called South Lanarkshire Countryside and Green Space, and they had a funding for a project called Growing Up Wild. And they've worked with a number of schools across Scotland to do this, so we were delighted that they got in touch with us as well. And they asked us to identify a group that this might work for, and it was about outdoor learning, being outdoors, and it was a 12-week project for 3 hours a week. So we thought very carefully about it. They couldn't have any more than 10 children in the group, which kind of didn't mean we couldn't include everybody. But when we were identifying, initially when we did this, we've done this twice, and initially when we did this, we included all 10 children that we thought it would work for. And that's just coming with a little bit of a health warning. Don't do that if you're going to run one of these projects, because actually putting all 10 children with all the same kind of needs in the one group, it doesn't work. So this second time around, when we actually run it, we picked a range of ages. We went from primary 3 all the way up to primary 7. The group of children who faced quite different challenges. Some were the more kind of out and out obvious challenging behaviour, loud and things. Some were just completely disengaged and their attendance was really low, and some were just really shy and quiet and had a really negative self-image. So quite a mixture. But we also picked a couple of children who were quite confident and that we felt could gel the group together. And the other thing that we found we needed to pick up on were those children who were really having difficult relationships because of their distress with not just their peers and the staff, but also their parents, and their parents were kind of reaching the end of their tether and what they were going to do next. So it was about having quite a mixture of a group in order to kind of make sure that they were able to gel together. So could I have the next slide, Mark? Thank you. So quite a few challenges. You might recognise some of these. So limiting, again, the numbers to no more than 10 pupils. We did seek the views of staff. Ultimately, sometimes you just have to say, right, do you know what, we're picking them and that's it. We've got the evidence to back it up. The staff and parent view that we were rewarding bad behaviour. So we did a lot of time through our newsletters, through assemblies, through staff meetings and things, talking about the equality and equity agenda. The belief that the session should be used to bribe children. So those children who were in that group, if they weren't good the day before, well, they shouldn't be getting to go. And that was clearly not going to work, because we actually have to justify the fact that this session is there to help them overcome these challenges, and it's not going to be an overnight fix. We have to give it time. And then finding a good location. So while I'm saying that we had our school area, that was being used by our school, and the last thing we wanted to do was to kick others off for that 3 hours. We do have a lovely site behind our school called Jocks Burn, which would have been ideal, but unfortunately it's kind of victim of local teenagers, and it wasn't deemed safe. So we actually found a local pond just a couple of miles up the road, and that was just about using our PEF money to fund a bus and to get the children there. Okay, next one, Mark, thanks. So just some of the benefits if you're thinking about doing a session like this. I think Eleanor's talked about some of the activities you can do. So pupils definitely develop confidence and resilience. They really learn to problem solve, and things they were frightened to do before, they weren't so frightened to do by the end of the 12 weeks. They did learn to work together to make things happen, whether it was about building up a swing or building a shelter or finding things within the woodland. And they learned to listen to others. We never had any issues with children following rules or running away, because they knew in the outdoor area it was really important, and they appreciated the fact that they were there. They got a sense of achievement and pride because they were learning something new, even if it was something small. They were getting to feel that sense of achievement and pride that they often didn't feel in a classroom, because along with the challenging behaviour and the distress, this was affecting their learning, and that really impacted on their self-esteem as well. The staff were really inspired, so we've now got 4 staff who are trained in forest schools, which is great. The pupils had something to talk to about their peers. They came back and they could report on what they'd done. The rest of the class were just great. Obviously, they all wanted to do it as well. We had at least 3 of the sessions where parents were invited along to spend time with their kids in a really fun and positive way. No pressures, no demands, nothing like that. And for 3 hours a week, the pupils felt that they had no demands placed on them other than just to have fun. It was just a release for them, which was superb. Could I have the next slide, Mark? So this is my last slide, and on that, and you'll not have time to do it just now because it is a 5-minute video, but there is a lovely video made from Growing Up Wild, and it is about the parent session, and the feedback from the children is just amazing. You wouldn't know that this handful of children in this photograph were the ones who were actually causing us the most upset, distress and worry in our school by the end of week 12, because they've just absolutely loved it. And what one of the children said, it's just there in the quote there, he was asked, why do you love coming out to forest schools? And he said, it's more alive than school. He came alive, which was just brilliant. So we've been running this project now for quite a wee while off our own back. We don't need the charity to help us because we have our outdoor learning area there. But if anyone's thinking of doing it, I would say don't be frightened by the challenges it presents, because the benefits definitely outweigh the setup and the worry and everything else. So just go for it. Watch the video if you get a chance. It is superb to watch. 5 minutes. That's me.